Good morning, everyone. It's the 29th of September, 2015, and I'm Deacon Taylor, traveling the country via my motorcycle in support of Mr. Chris Keniston in 2016, our future president. And I am honored and grateful to be a part of his team and to be his selected running mate for vice president of these United States in 2016. So, a little bit of background, and then I want to jump into a subject for today. The background is Veterans Party of America was started a couple of years ago. And as I've traveled for the last 45 some odd days and somewhere around 12,000 miles, give or take, I've kind of lost track because my odometer reset recently. But not the main odometer, but the one that was tracking the trip plan. Anyway, so suffice it to say, it's been quite an adventure for 45 days since we did our announcement, but the Veterans Party of America is not getting any major press. And major press is the subject that I want to talk about for a little bit. I've had several people get really cross with me about my opinion about Fox News and CNN and CNBC and frankly all of the major news outlets. And I'll sum this up very quickly for you. In 1987, the Reagan administration in the FCC gutted fairness in journalism, very specifically. And I might have the date wrong. Maybe it's 1989. I can't remember at this point. I do a lot of research. I do a lot of research before I ever open my mouth. And being on the road, I don't keep all that research with me. So once I find something that I can validate, I save it in my brain, and I remember it, and then I use that information as I'm moving forward. So I'm not some kind of a research junkie that's sitting in a closet that's packing in file after file after file, trying to hold on to stuff for proof of everything that's going on. No, I do my own research, I come to my own conclusion, and then I use that information moving forward. So here's my stance on mainstream media. They are a propaganda tool. That's it. That's their sole purpose at this point in our society. Yes, there's a smattering of a little bit of news inside of what they project. And that's how they hook people in. They use 10%, 20%, I don't know what percentage. They use a small percentage of truthiness in their broadcasts. And then they layer in using video, using graphics, using all kinds of other things to affect the way you think. And if you don't believe me, then that's fine. You don't have to believe me. What I will tell you is I have several friends that are propaganda experts. They went through psychological operations for the U.S. military and some of the most advanced training in the world. And I've learned from them. And we've had conversations sitting around the bar at night, and they've talked about how they were going to create this propaganda program to make people want to drink more beer as we were having a good time laughing and chuckling. But what they didn't understand is they were educating me in how propaganda works. And so these very well-trained individuals, through a series of very good interactions and a very close personal relationship over a long time, I learned things. Because I pay attention and because I don't blindly follow anything. I was raised in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming. A little tiny town, Basin, was the closest thing that we had to a community around us. We were a good 5 miles outside of that, maybe more, I don't remember. And so getting in and out of town was a big deal. And getting in and out of the big cities was a big deal. Our biggest city and closest city was Billings, Montana. In some states, they don't even consider that a city because it doesn't have enough people. It's a big town. So everything is relative and everything comes from your own perspective. And I think that's the thing that really just is getting in my crawl lately is all of these people try to project on me what they think. And because internet is really easy to change your perspective and to translate what somebody is writing in text into what you want it to say, I see lots and lots of arguments because people are using words differently. And I'm not saying right or wrong, I'm saying differently. Because there is technical definitions per industry on what words mean, and it's really important. But what most folks don't do is they don't take the time to understand that not everybody comes from your walk of life. So just because you have a PhD in economics or in microbiology or whatever, doesn't mean that the rest of the world understands your use of terms. And so one of my main jobs, one of the main things that I've done my entire life is try to be a translator or an interpreter between professions. That's what project management's all about, is being able to facilitate things to get done, because you talk to the engineers, you talk to the architects, you talk to the owner's reps, you talk to the owners, you talk to the construction trades crafts, the guys that actually build the stuff. You talk to all of these different people, and then you find workable solutions. And so, as people like to project onto me what they think I'm saying, instead of actually taking the time to hear me and the time to get to know me through a period of time, they are assuming things about what I'm saying that I'm not saying. Most recently, one of my good friends in the party has gotten very upset because I talked about faux news. And it's not just Fox, it's CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, ESPN, all of them. All of them. All the Main Street outlets are owned by a small group of people. It's reality. They are in it to make money. They are in it to sell the news. That's it. So, what sells? Negativity, disaster, fear, hate. Those things all sell really well. What doesn't sell? Love, compassion, peace, all the things that, I don't know, if you have any religious philosophy in your background, you would understand that Jesus and all of the major prophets throughout history all talk about peace and love and compassion. And there's somebody else, there's this other darker entity that talks about hate, violence, fear, and emotional manipulation. So who are you really serving by buying into all of the nonsense that these people are selling? Who are you really buying? Who are you really supporting? That's my question to everyone. Really think about what you believe, who you believe in. Because as far as I can tell, there's really only two factions in this universe. There's the lightness and there's the darkness. There's God and there's the devil. Whatever label you want to put on it, we all are born with an instinct to understand good versus evil. And then we're raised with it by our parents and our families and our communities and all of the things that we interact with day to day. So while you all are trying to figure out what your position in the world is and what your role in all of this is and what the end, why we're here kind of stuff is going on, just remember, your perspective is your reality. And when you try to push that perspective on someone else and they resist, then understand that that's where compromise occurs. So stop McJudging everything that somebody else says on the internet or everyone else says at the water cooler at the office or in a conversation at a cafe, and try to actually open your mind and hear what they're really saying. Look beyond your own bias, just for a little bit, and you'll realize that we are all fighting the same fight. And the good versus evil fight that's on a macro scale, that all starts in here first. I know so many people that struggle with the good versus evil, and it's called addiction. Addiction is one of the most powerful functions of that good versus evil fight. And I even call it out with people that are hung up on this Wall Street market capitalism. It's an addiction. It really is. If you really watch what those people on Wall Street are going through, it's an addiction to the adrenaline that they get from making huge amounts of money very quickly. It's a drug. It's just one that comes from our brain instead of one that we consume. And when they can't get enough of it because they can't get that rush anymore, then they turn to cocaine, heroin, and all kinds of other drugs that maintain that same level of excitement. So take a little bit of time. Think back to how little children use propaganda to get what they want. From the littlest of the little children, very early on learn if they cry and scream and throw a tantrum, oftentimes they get their way. Unless they have a dynamic parent that understands that they're trying to just get their way. In which case, the parent will sit down and logically explain why they aren't allowed to do something that they think they want to do. And they teach them, and they guide them, and they cultivate them. And then a community around them does the same thing. And we reward good behavior, and we ignore bad behavior. So I've chosen deliberately to ignore the noise from the mainstream media. Yes, I still catch the news every once in a while because it happens to cross my path, but I tune it out and I filter it because I understand that they are just trying to sell a product. And once you realize that, once you finally come to understand that this is nothing more than another thing that is being sold, then we're in control and we can decide what we're going to purchase. So that's my message for today. You can judge me all you want, and that's fine. You have every right to do whatever you want to do. God gave us free will. And there's only one entity that I've read through every religious text and everything I could get my hands on. There's only one entity that tries to take away free will. And that is Satan, or the devil, or Lucifer, or whatever you want to call him. And that has more to do with us, because we're part of the divine and we're part of the earth. And so the light and darkness that's within all of us, the human side of us, the physical form that we're in, is flawed and weak and has the ability to be addicted to things. And so if you really want to look past all of the noise and get to the point where you understand that the only thing worth fearing is fear, then we can have some conversations. And I'm always getting into great conversations. Doesn't matter where I go, doesn't matter who I meet. Mostly, I don't think it's anything unique about me. I think it's the fact that I turned off that filter. I turned off that assumption that everybody is just like me, and everybody thinks like me, and everybody's had the same experiences of me, because that's just ridiculous. And so when I stand there and I talk to somebody face to face, I don't listen to respond. I listen to hear what they're saying. And oftentimes I'll ask clarifying questions because I don't always understand what it is that they're trying to say. So that's my challenge to everyone today. Be someone and listen to what other people are trying to say, and stop immediately having a response for whatever it is that they are saying. Because we all use words differently. We all come from this adventure of life from a very different perspective. And if we could actually take the time to turn off all of those assumptions, we probably wouldn't have nearly as many fights. Because we would realize that the majority of us are very, very similar. I would say 90% of the things that are being disagreed about right now could be solved if people would just take the time to listen. So, have a great day, And don't forget to register to vote, and don't forget to vote for Chris Keniston in 2016. That's my choice, obviously. But more importantly, get educated and vote. Have a good day, folks.